This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Welcome, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I am coming at you with a pre-record this week because we have the Aftershock Festival this weekend for 4 days straight, 160 bands. I'm extremely excited for this. I actually just finished doing another pre-record with Dean the Pipe Man, Piper. Juan, actually, if you could throw up on the chat when that is going to air for me so I can let everybody know. We did a pre-record on the Peter Wilson case, in which case we discussed the evidence. The follow-up to that particular case at this point in time is that I've received a couple responses back. As I've indicated, I've worked hard at submitting this to individuals that I hope will be able to help or assist in getting the information and the word out in regards to the writ of habeas corpus for Mr. Wilson. One of the responses came from the Innocence Project, which I submitted the paperwork to, and I did receive that response back, them thanking me obviously for having worked on this project, that there was nothing that they could assist in as far as the writ of habeas corpus was concerned, but they do feel that he is innocent. And then a doctor's report was submitted to me by the client, by Mr. Wilson, this last week, in which case a medical doctor who reviews forensics and different information in cases has also looked over his information and determined that he is likely innocent as well. So we have a lot of people coming in at this point that are asserting their opinions in regards to his case, and I really honestly hope that that writ of habeas corpus is answered here soon. Let's see. Dean's podcast is on this Wednesday. Is that at 10 a.m.? Eastern Standard Time, that is, because I want to be able to give people the right time frame. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so that's going to be on Talk 4 TV, if I'm correct. At 1 p.m. Eastern Time this Wednesday, you'll get to see the interview of Dean. Oh, sorry. W4CY.com. Again, that's W4CY.com, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you'll be able to see that interview on the Peter Wilson case. Another case that just came to light, it appears that 2 days ago, they have made an identification in the yogurt shop murders, which is a case that we spoke about in this presentation within the last couple weeks. It occurred in December of 1991, when I believe Jack was separated from Nora. The interesting part of this case is that they had evidently attempted to convict 4 individuals for it. 2 they were successful in the conviction of, and at least one of them spent 15 years in prison before being exonerated and released, which again just describes all kinds of bad forensics and so forth in order to have convicted the wrong individual. The scarier part is that they're claiming that the DNA they have that's made this connection to somebody who's also been found culpable of 3 other crimes, including rape and murder in completely different states, had no ties to Austin whatsoever, was not there working, did not live there. They didn't have any information for him having been there other than this one stop that they have now deemed he is responsible for based on DNA. What really bothers me about that in 2000, when these other 2 individuals were convicted, where was this DNA? Did the prosecutor withhold that DNA like they did in the Peter Wilson case? Was this a case of them trying to slam dunk or convict and close a case without probable cause, without good forensics? And now how are we supposed to trust the fact that the DNA that they now have against this guy, who is dead, by the way, he's not going to be able to defend himself. And if he is the killer, he's not going to have any retribution, or the families are not going to receive any vindication on him having gone to jail for the crimes that he committed. But again, taking us back to that DNA, I have to question, how did you convict an individual if you had DNA in this case that ultimately then pointed to somebody else nearly 20 some years later? Mind-boggling. That'll take me to our presentation for today, where we're going to actually talk about another case that a lot of people believe the individuals are innocent that have been convicted of a crime. And it's called the West Memphis 3, if anybody has heard about this case. I know a little bit about it. Can we get the presentation put up there? There we go. So basically, there's an entire website dedicated to Free the West Memphis 3. These 3 individuals were convicted of a crime, I believe, of killing 3 little boys, but let's see what the information says. So on May 5th, 1993, 3 8-year-old boys, Steve Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, were reported missing in West Memphis, Arkansas. Now, again, guys, we have the ties for Jack in Arkansas. We have the ties. He has a P.O. box in Arkansas, and we know that that P.O. box existed at least in 1980. Of course, that's 13 years before this, but Jack was known to have had P.O. boxes and storage sheds pretty much all over the place. I could count, at least we know they were here in California and in Arizona, likely when he moved to Washington. And of course, we know that he stored things back in Texas with his aunt as well. So anyways, the first report to the police was made by Byers' adopted father, John Mark Byers, around 7 p.m. The boys were allegedly last seen together by 3 neighbors who in affidavits told of seeing them playing together around 6:30 p.m. the evening they disappeared, and seeing Terry Hobbs, Steve Branch's stepfather, calling them to come home. Initial police searches made that night were limited. Friends and neighbors also conducted a search that night, which included a cursory visit to the location where the bodies were later found. A more thorough police search for the children began around 8 a.m. on May 6th, led by the Crittenden County Search and Rescue personnel. Searchers canvassed all of West Memphis, but focused primarily on Robin Hood Hills, where the boys were reported last seen. Despite a shoulder-to-shoulder search of Robin Hills by a human chain, searchers found no sign of the missing boys. Around 1:45 p.m., juvenile parole officer Steve Jones spotted a boy's black shoe floating in a muddy creek that led to a major drainage canal in Robin Hood Hills. A subsequent search of the ditch revealed the bodies of 3 boys. They had been stripped naked and were hogtied. Now, the hogtied part is really what caught my attention, because we hear about hogtied in many of these crimes. Hogtied with their own shoelaces, their right ankles tied to their right wrists behind their backs, the same with their left arms and legs. Their clothing was found in the creek, some of it twisted around sticks that had been thrust into the muddy ditch bed. The clothing was mostly turned inside out. 2 pairs of the boys' underwear were never recovered. Christopher Byers had lacerations to various parts of his body and mutilation of his scrotum and penis. The autopsies by forensics pathologist Frank J. Peretti indicated that Byers died of multiple injuries, while Moore and Branch died of multiple injuries with drowning. Police initially suspected the boys had been raped. However, later expert testimony disputed this finding. Trace amounts of sperm DNA were found on a pair of pants recovered from the scene. Prosecution experts claim Byers' wounds were the results of a knife attack and that he had been purposely castrated by the murderer. Defense experts claim the injuries were most likely the result of post-mortem animal predation. Police believe the boys were assaulted and killed at the location where they were found. Critics argued that the assault, at least, was unlikely to have occurred at the creek. Byers was the only victim with drugs in his system. He was prescribed Ritalin. I'm not going to try and say that word. In January of 1993, as part of treatment of an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The initial autopsy report describes the drug as yeah, there's another one, and the dosage at a subtherapeutic level. His father said Byers may not have taken his prescription on May 5th of 1993. So basically, that's kind of a rundown on what had occurred with those particular murders. And of course, we have these three that have been convicted of the crime. And this comes in light of, again, I believe, if I remember the documentary correctly, that they had initially confessed to the murders and then recanted. But what we're finding a lot of these cases back in those days is that they were coercing individuals into confessions, beating them down for hours and hours and hours. They're sleep deprived, they're hungry, they want to go home. They're teenagers, I believe, at this point when they're actually being convicted of these crimes. So these individuals are highly susceptible to coercion. And we see it time and time again where the confession is given just so that individual feels a small bit of relief, whether it's to lay down and to get some sleep or to eat some food, only to find out that they've done something so terrible by confessing to a crime that they didn't commit, that it is going to take years, if not their entire lifetime, to try and unravel and get out of. Too many times do we see that happen. So I think that might even have been the case they were talking about in the yogurt murders, is that there was a confession made and then later they recanted, and it turned out that they were innocent and they had been coerced into giving those confessions as well. I want to say, where's the police? Where's the DA that's on the side of the public for those that are right, that are protecting, rather than trying to just hem up the first person that they can get convicted for a crime? Oh, that's going to take us right back into Jack Terrence and what he has going on. Summer of 1993, we show that he is working for TriStar Security. They completed their background investigation and found that he had a prior conviction on the charge in Sacramento. Jack was fired from his security position at University of Arizona, but he had already made it in. He'd already been there. I also want to note that while Jack was out of California, we are not having any murders here. And I note here that Arizona State University began cataloging and storing all strains of anthrax during the early 90s, and when Jack was a security guard there. So Jack's job following this one is at Purina Mills feed plant at the east end of Flagstaff. So he's still capable of getting security jobs, even with his conviction. Now, I bring this up because the Zodiac Jack pre-planned most of his endeavors, and I contend that later he is the author of the anthrax mailings, which we're going to talk about. And of course, there was this article that discussed the type of substance that the anthrax was put into, and it looked like a dog food type substance. Now, I believe that the Purina Mills feed plant was actually making pig feed, if I'm correct in my memory. Either way, we know that Purina Mills is your number one maker of dog foods in general. So if that was the type of material that the anthrax was found in, then there may be that connection between both the missing manuscript of Hemphill at Arizona State University, the ability to actually access anthrax, and then the type of material that the anthrax was put into. So we'll see where that goes once we get to the anthrax stuff. On July 1st of 1993, 23-year-old Martin Landon Sosa on the 32,000 block of Dobbin Huffsmith, Magnolia, Texas, was found in a ditch, shot and mutilated before being transported to this location. It kind of, again, reminded me of Black Dahlia, simply because where her body was laid out was not where the crime was committed. So we also have this mutilation that's happening again in Texas. So if this Brashers guy is truly the suspect and the person who committed the yogurt crimes, then having this mutilation going on, or the three boys in Arkansas having that mutilation go on, maybe these cases have some type of a connection. On July 11th of 1993, Nora has her family in Springerville, Arizona, and goes for a funeral there. I showed to verify the dates, but this is information that I pulled from her actual diary, which we have the 1993 diary and we have her 1996 diary. On August 10th of 1993, 34-year-old Craig Dean Beyer in the Flamingo Motel in Flagstaff, Arizona. He's kicked out of the motel at 3 a.m. Witnesses see him at Denny's at 3:30 a.m. At 4:30 a.m., he knocked on the window of a Travelers at a campground near Meteor Crater asking for the manager. At 5:50 a.m., he's found dead near entrance of the campground, shot in the head. Buyer, a California resident, recently moving to Arkansas after traveling. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so recently moving to Arkansas after traveling back and forth for some time, made a stop in Flagstaff for the night, walking on top of Flamingo Hotel roof with an axe handle, and toxicology determined he was on methamphetamines. Officer determined he was not impaired from alcohol and helped him pack his vehicle to leave. He climbed a 6-foot fence to find the manager. I don't know who that manager is at that time. And let's see, he shot in the head from 6 to 10 feet away, and there were no spent cartridges that were found. So 2 suspects were identified, but no one was ever charged with this crime. Nora's diary indicates that she was with Mary from August 6th through the 11th of August, and Dennis and Charles arrived from California the morning after the 11th, and Dennis was sick. But there's no mention of Jack's whereabouts during this time frame. So it appears as though at least from August 6th to August 11th, Jack was on his own. I'm always concerned when he's on his own. I always feel like the murders pick up and things happen when he is on his own. On September 22nd of 1993, we have 17-year-old Melanie Burness in Phoenix, Arizona, and she is found in the Arizona Canal. So fished from the same canal at almost the same spot as the head of Brasso. So basically that murder, I claim, could have taken place previous to Jack moving to Arizona, where he was there to scout out where he was going to be going, which happened to be Phoenix, Arizona. Albeit once he got there to Flagstaff, decided he did not want to move on to Phoenix, even though it was cheaper for them to be there. So the turquoise bodysuit with the black zipper found near her body, but didn't belong to her. So they find this jacket that's laid next to her that isn't hers. She's a bicyclist as well. That's a match to the Brasso murder. She was on a bicycle. Also, the 1944 murders and California murders, bicycles have been involved. So we talk about that a lot. And in this particular murder, there was a green SPC Hard Rock Sport mountain bike that was also never found. This individual, though, was not mutilated and her head was not cut off as Brasso's were. I showed on here that I wanted to cross this with Anthony Allen Shore and the cream-colored van. The 2 scenarios, color of VW van and cream-colored van. Nora can be seen in this for their 1990 trip to Metro City and possibly the Grand Canyon. So we know that that occurred, I want to say, in 1993 with one of their other family members, Gary. Shore was said to have committed 9 murders close to his proximity from September 1986. Female and 3-year-old black male, February 5th, 1989, December 29th of 1989, September 8th of 1990, and May 13th of 1994. August 7th of 1994, July 6th of 1995, and an unknown date of January 2nd, 1999. So these are all crimes that Anthony Allen Shore has actively committed. So these are the dates of those murders, and I obviously don't have them in here in this presentation to discuss with you simply because they did identify or convict Anthony Allen Shore of those murders. On October 4th of 1993, Jack goes to Texas with Mike and Linda to finish moving them from California to Texas. So now he's assisting other individuals to move from California to Texas. And by October 12th of 1993, Jack returns from Texas via the Greyhound bus. Now, of course, there is that tie-in in the individual who was seen on the getting on the Greyhound bus by an individual in the John Benet Ramsey case. So, of course, I always track anything that might be a similarity, and that happens to be one of them. So, yes, he will make his way out there, either fly out there, come home by bus. November 3rd of 1993 at 11:30 p.m., Mike and Linda return to Arizona, and Mike and Jack turn right around and go back to Texas to get their stuff at 12:15 a.m. in the morning. So, and they don't return back until November 11th of 1993. So they're literally, again, gone for basically, it looks like about 8 days. We see that a lot. It's just absolutely insane. Dead almost a week, November 8th or 9th, 1993. The body was found November 16th of 1993, approximately 27 years old. They've listed her as Shafter Jane Doe, I-80, Eastern Nevada, near Utah border, near exit 378 to Shafter mining town. So that's why she's named Shafter Jane Doe, is because she was found in a mining town. She was laid out in a position like a cross with legs together and arms raised out. Now we have positioning of the bodies once again, very similar to Black Dahlia. She was approximately 5'7" tall and had given birth to at least one child. The last victim had children and was 35 years of age. Approximate date of death a week previous to the finding of the body on November 16th. So that's why I dated it back to about November 8th or 9th based on their information. And the severe decomposition from weather. This could be our missing person from Texas. So we, got to look at cross-referencing, because we see these bodies time and time again are being moved to different locations, being killed in one place or gone missing in one place, and then bodies are found in other locations. So cross-connecting some of these might be probative in order to figure out who these individuals are. On November 11th of 1993, Jack is back in Arizona per Nora's diary, though we do not know if Nora's dates are accurate, because we do see sometimes she will put in several entries after the fact and then have to go back and redate them because she incorrectly dated them when she attempted to fill out her diary. We saw that in the 1996 diary, so it really makes me question as to whether or not Jack was back with them at the time that the diary purports, simply because we can see that those dates have been changed. Jack was not at home for the last murder, per Nora's diary, and he and Mike were going back and forth to Texas to pick up Mike's belongings and reported a lengthy stay due to car problems. Per Stephen Dewhurst's book, Jack had a very difficult interaction with Lana and Gail while in Austin over their brother's death. Jack hadn't spoke to Gail in 13 years because he was the only one home with his son, Barry, who Jack claims died from pneumonia. However, Dennis claims that Barry died from a head injury fall in the bathtub while Jack was the only person home and drunk. Barry died in 1980, so this is Jack's son. He would have been an adult, and Jack actually quits drinking, I guess, based on Dennis's word, for 10 years by the time this happens. November 12th of 1993, 35-year-old Jane McDonald Crone is a missing person from Magnolia, Hockey, Texas. And now, of course, if Jack is already back in Arizona on November 12th, then technically this murder can literally be, at least we're in here to talk about it to make other people aware, but he is not being included in a possibility as a suspect. He did, it does say that Jane worked for Baker Hughes in Houston, Texas, visited City Limits Club, Willie's Nightlife Club, and Twigs Club in Northwest Harris County. Her husband reported her missing on November 15th, 1993. Not sure why he waited so long. That's 3 days between the time he claimed she went missing and when he actually identified or notified the police. November 19th of 1993, her blue 1982 Ford Mustang was found abandoned on Decision Street near the intersection of Roberts Cemetery Road in Harris County, Texas. Work crew reported the car there as early as November 13th at 7 a.m. So clearly the day after she has gone missing. So basically, I notated that the car being stolen and abandoned is a constant theme in these particular cases, and Jack reports having robbed and stolen cars to get where and what he wanted. I put this in here since Nora has shown to be off a day or so, since she does not regularly write in her journal and will do days. She will do insertions into her diary for days at a time, all in a single sitting, well after the experience have occurred, and that's why we see the dates changing on things. So maybe I did include this, not to say that he is the actual perpetrator of this crime, but that being she notated he was back by November 11th, we've got to wonder how true that date actually is. Now, on November 19th, 1993 through 11/26 of 1993, Jack and family drive to California referencing a VW van. he is really known, obviously, during holidays and birthdays to be traveling from wherever he's at with the family to enjoy those holidays and events with other family members. Let's see. This one is mailed out of Austin, Texas on the 15th of November. So that actually brings other things to mind. So if I'm showing that November 19th through November 26th, the family drives to California, this letter is actually mailed out of Austin, Texas on the 15th of November, 1993. And of course, we see that this murder took place in November 12th of 1993. So that would at least at a minimum suggest that Jack is in Texas during this time frame and that Nora's diary is possibly wrong. So some of these connections, I don't even see them happening until I actually make it to it. But this is Jack's handwriting. It is actually self-addressed from Flagstaff, Arizona, but we can see, let's see, or no, maybe they... Okay, I'm looking at a double stamped envelope, which is not often something that you see. So there is a secondary stamp up here that is indicating that it was mailed out of Flagstaff, and maybe this is the receiving postmark on November 15th of 1993. So nope, that would have put him in Arizona in on the date that this was mailed, though I can't really see the date. It just says November 1993. 7 p.m. and does not give me an actual date. Either way, we also see another piece of mail. So, I brought these up in order to do some cross comparison to some other handwriting, like the R's against the Red Phantom, the DB Cooper, and Jack's handwriting. Of course, the lowercase looped R's that we've talked about that have occurred. We can see one right there. Let's see if we see any others in here, but those were definitely R's that I notated in some of the actual letters that were used in the Zodiac cases. On December 17th to the 19th of 1993, there's a trip to California for the holidays. On December 19th to the 29th of 1993, they go to Washington. And then December 30th of 1993, per Nora's diary, they're back in California. January 2nd, 1994, they head back to Arizona. Again, Jack certainly doesn't seem to be working, even though we know that he has purportedly gone to Purina Mills. I don't actively have any information other than, I believe, what Dennis has indicated or Stephen Dewhurst has written about in regards to Jack working for Purina Mills. But he's clearly taking off pretty much the entire month of December, it looks like, to travel. In Arizona, per Ancestry.com, 1993, 1995 to 1996, they're showing Jack and Nora in Arizona, even though I show that he probably left out at about 1995. And Dewhurst writes that they moved back to the Auburn Trailer Park at 3350 in California, which I know that states in 1995, and Dennis states that they don't move back to California until 1998. We do know that there is some type of interim in between there where Nora goes to Washington while Jack goes back to take care of his mom during late 95, 96. So we know that to some degree, not every piece of information in Stephen Dewhurst's book is correct. And I'm just following the pieces of evidence that have gotten us to that point. Jack, I show here what Jack lived in Flagstaff, Arizona, merely 2.5 hours from the crimes up until 2/26/94 per Jack's handwriting and the phone number given to reach him. So basically this is some 30-day no risk order form. It says Exxon for fast ordering, facture order. Let's see if I can, this is stereo equipment. It looks like interesting. I did not know Exxon was in stereo equipment, but Sharp 6D SC stereo, dual deck VCR. He's up to date on some things here in the 1990s, things that I didn't even know existed. I was still probably on cassette tapes. Anyways, in March of 1994, there's biological evidence on the bodies linked the two Arizona slayings. So the Brasso murder where the gal was beheaded and then the other gal found in the canal. have DNA that has linked, or biological evidence that has linked the two bodies in Arizona. Phoenix Police Sergeant Randy Force said the killer's DNA profile is entered in a nationwide database. This might be something I want to look up. It seems like now that I'm starting to talk about some of these cases, they are selectively solving them through DNA. It says the Sergeant Randy Force says, we are hoping someplace someday that the DNA profile is going to pop up again and we'll have our guy, Force said. I did make a note to myself to read the article after the receipt for the reference to the cream-colored van and Anthony Allen Shore. Jack and Nora had, we know that. Both Anthony's parents were Air Force. Shore supposedly called KPRC TV to report Dana Sanchez's body. Now, again, that is a Hispanic name. We know that the finale letter indicates that there were no Hispanics killed by that suspect or that author. But again, the author obviously knows there's other people out there doing it. Does he know who they are? That's why I keep putting down that I need to research if there's any connection between Anthony Allen Shore and Jack. On May 13th of 1994, we have 16-year-old Trella Sykes from Houston, Texas. Ninth grader went missing the morning of March 13th, 1994, and then found on the 3900 block of Redbud in a field. On March 26th of 1994, Jack is in Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, of course, March 26th, that's 13 days after this person went missing. But it does show that he is mailing off to Dennis Kaufman in Shingle Springs, California, and that is Dennis's new place. We do have a letter here from the Department of Health and Education and Welfare. It's the Social Security Administration, and it looks like it's being written, let's see, on behalf of Jack to Honorable John V. Tooney, the United States Senator. Dear Senator Tooney, this is in further response to your inquiry concerning Mr. Jack W. Terrence's disability claim. I cannot provide you with a full report at this time because the case is in process outside of Baltimore. Our Bureau of Disability Insurance is aware of your interest and has asked that action on the case be expedited. As soon as the records are received and reviewed, I will write you again. Should any delay occur in reaching a final decision, I will, of course, furnish you with appropriate interim reports. Sincerely yours, James B. Cardwell, Commissioner of the Social Security Office. So Jack actually has people checking in on his case. And again, if he's still fighting for his disability claims, then that again means that I wouldn't suspect that he'd be working if you're trying to file for disability, but clearly we do see that he is taking some jobs, but not really making any type of an income that allows for him to continue making these moves that he makes. That's always kind of boggled me how he's been able to do that. Here is the house in Flagstaff in 1994, and here is Gary, which I had these pictures back in the timeline because it indicated that based on Dennis's information in 1993 was that trip to the Grand Canyon. Again, we can see that cream colored van that's right there to the left of the house. And we have Gary. He has reached out to me a couple times through the YouTube channel and, tried to give some information. He's confirmed that Jack was a huge traveler, always on the road. Again, how do you do this without money? It never makes any sense to me. Okay, so we have a telephone book, which I don't believe, and I probably should have, knowing now what I know, having taken a scan of every single page of the phone book, but I just did this in order to show Jack's whereabouts at this particular point in time, and it does indicate the Flagstaff, Arizona, the Copley address, which we just seen with the picture of Gary. Jack is presumed to still be in Arizona per his notation of the Arizona driver's license that expires on 2/6 of 2005. I don't know how long their driver's licenses are good for. So that, here in California, it's a 5-year. That would have been 2000 to 2005. And here we're still in 1994. So this must be a driver's license that actually... Let's see, 2/6/2005, Arizona. So this must be another stay in Arizona. And I have this in incorrectly in chronological order here. It is out of place, and this should probably be in 2005, because I believe this is where Dennis obtained the last storage shed that Jack actually gave him access to. So there's no way Dennis could have gone to Arizona and gotten access to a storage shed if Jack hadn't given it to him. I'm going to definitely make note of moving that, because that's extremely important in my mind, because we know that Jack became aware that Dennis was claiming that he was the Zodiac Killer as early as 2000. And the story from Dennis was that he had called off the investigation or the research into Jack as the Zodiac because he couldn't get anybody to listen. Nobody from SFPD wanted to deal with it. Everybody kept around filing it. We saw what happened with the DNA in the envelopes, and, you know, all of the things that were going on between SFPD and Sonoma County Sheriff's Department and the FBI. And then in 2000, Dennis tells me that, or in 2005, Dennis tells me that Jack gave him access to a storage shed in Arizona. And the purpose of that was that there would be evidence that would solidify that Jack was the Zodiac Killer. So I just have this in the wrong place. And he has clearly lived in Arizona more than once. On August 7th of 1994, Diana Rebolar at 1440 North Loop West. I don't have a city or state for this, which is interesting how it made it in here, but found behind a vacant building, raped, beaten, and strangled. She is a brunette, but it does not say if she is Hispanic. So possibly another shore victim, I think, is probably why I put it in here. I lose Jack's whereabouts from May 29th of 1994 until May of 1995. Other than knowing that he was in the Arizona area until approximately 1995 is all I really have. 11:40. Oh, we're just about done, it looks like. Oh, no, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong timer. On October 15th of 1994, 40-year-old Martin Paul Doherty on the 11,000 block of Clint Parker Road in Willis, Texas. He rented a mobile home on Wooded Oak in Willis, Texas. Cleared the land October 2nd with a friend on the property where his body was found. October 15th of 1994, the body was found by people looking to purchase the property. Discovered in heavy brush. He was shot several times. Appeared to be a robbery since his wallet and jewelry was taken and never found. But that always takes me back to the bucket of IDs that Jack and, well, Dennis claimed that he did take possession of those IDs, that he did have them, that he had them buried in a safe place. I guess now we'll probably never really know. But if there is taking of pieces of individuals' belongings and keeping them, then we see that happening in this particular case. And it would make it look like a robbery rather than anything else. October 28th of 1994, 22-year-old Renee Nelson, Moorhead, Minnesota, 12 miles north of Comstock Bridge of Red River, was last seen walking from the bank to her apartment in Moorhead. April of 1995, local residents spotted something on the riverbank. She had been strangled to death. So this looks like it took almost, oh gosh, a good 7 or 8 months to actually find her body, but to be located on a riverbank and not to have been seen before that is rather odd. She had been strangled to death, found on the border of Minnesota and North Dakota. December 16th of 1994, 52-year-old Dudley Truett Scott was a missing person at the 2000 block of Creekwood Drive, Splendora, Texas. He walked off into the woods to never be seen or heard from again. He had Down syndrome and takes medications, which when not taken causes disorientation and seizures. White male, 5 feet, 140 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes, last seen wearing blue boxer shorts, blue short sleeve coveralls, and a brown lace-up boots. Carried a home identification card, 2 wallets, and a red Swiss Army knife. Again, I don't think that this one is probably attributed to the Zodiac Killer, but just again, a missing person. So if bodies had been found in any particular location or proximity to the place that they've gone missing, this individual may be capable of matching them up to a John Doe. February 11th of 1995, another 22-year-old Donnie Lynn Allen on CR 23 of FM 1486 in Grimes County, Richards, Texas. left work with the boss's truck to buy cigarettes. Witnesses seen him in the truck with 2 black males and then in a nightclub in Montgomery, Texas area. February 15th of 1995, the truck is found and Allen isn't reported as missing until 1996. That's a very, very strange situation there, especially if he leaves with the boss's truck. You'd think that boss would want his truck back long before 1996. In 2008, loggers find remains in a heavily wooded area approximately 5 miles from where the truck was found. And the DNA testing confirms the remains. So they didn't actually, so he goes missing in 95, is not reported missing till 1996, and the remains were found in 2008. On March 29th of 1995, Deanna Kremen in Somerville, Massachusetts, is a volunteer worker at Somerville Cable Access Television, worked with 3rd graders and at a Star Market. She was found behind a senior housing complex a block from her home, lying on her back, mostly undressed, strangled. I did a question mark for a coincidence. There is a Somerville, Texas, an hour and a half from Dale, Texas. But this is saying Somerville, Massachusetts. And I want to say, or I feel like that's Minnesota. So yeah, maybe not a pattern going on there. Let's see, Somerville, Texas. To get to Massachusetts, there's a path through MD-DC where a connections between murderers of Jack and DC Freeway Phantom on his way to the Massachusetts murder above. Maybe grasping, I wrote, but we have Deanna as a likely name for many unsolved murders as well. Nora's health is actually failing with her diabetes and an autoimmune disorder, which required medications and steroids. Unable to work, and Jack is obviously not working as well. These string of robberies sound like a desperate Jack to me. He is not unused to taking what he wants and he needs. Refer to the PowerPoint when Jack moved Nora to Washington, but moved to Texas to take care of Flova. So I did actively put in here that by May of 1995, Jack is back in Texas. So that's why I say I've lost him from that period in 1994 until May 13th of 1995. We see that he is being baptized in Bastrop, Texas. 1995, Jack moves Nora to Washington. He goes to Texas to take care of his mom. And at some unknown point, Nora moves to Texas to join Jack until 1997. But I'm not sure when that occurred. On July 6th of 1995, Dana Sanchez on Cavalcade Street, last seen on a payphone on West Cavalcade Street. Her body was found on July 14th, was going to go hitchhike to a boyfriend's house. And this kind of reminds me of the I-45 and Galveston or League City murders, where many of these individuals were hitchhiking or using payphones and things of that nature when they are abducted and killed. On July 11th of 1995, Jack is paying bills for his mother using her checks in Dale, Texas. I've identified that handwriting and the notations on the bills as having been paid by Jack. July 14th of 1995, there's a body found, the body of Dana Sanchez. So we just went over that. She went missing July 6th of 1995. She was found July 14th. It was solved under Anthony Allen Shore, again, Hispanic. We can rule that out. Anybody who is Hispanic, but we're starting to see that pattern of the two that are, so there's the 80s and the 90s. There's evidently two different series that are occurring in these murders that was identified in the finale letter to Tim Miller. It shows that Dana Chavez was found in Northview Park. She had been raped and beaten and strangled and needed to check any connection again. I keep wanting to think there's some type of a connection between Anthony Allen Shore and Jack, but I've not made one at this point. August 15th, 1995, 78-year-old John and 74-year-old Pansy Stewart on the 100 block of Forester Drive in Conroe, Texas. Both have been shot multiple times in the living room area of the house. God, that takes me back to Texarkana Phantom, where he actually shot the two individuals through the windows in their house. The house was ransacked with multiple items missing. Man's two-tone gold Rolex watch, a .40 caliber handgun, a Remington Model 742 semi-auto, 30 .6 rifle, a CVA 31 caliber black powder handgun, a man's white metal ring designed with a mobile oil emblem with the red flying horse, and assorted women's jewelry. Appeared the shootings took place on the morning of the 15th based on the evidence at the scene. On August 31st of 1995, somewhere between the 17th and the 25th, Jennifer Lynn Coyen on Comer Reinhardt Road, half-mile north of FM 1485, New Caney, Texas. Timber cutting crew unearthed remains in a concealed wooded area near the railroad tracks, which is commonly used for illegal dumping. A pearl-type necklace and a part of a deck-type shoe was found with the remains. On November 15th of 1995, we see Jack is definitely back in Dale, Texas, due to the forward of mail receipts. And December 25th of 1995, we have Christmas pics of Jack with Mom and Chubbs in Texas. Don't note, obviously, we do not see Nora in those pictures. So maybe that after that particular point in time is when she came back from Washington and joined up with Jack. Here are some of the phone bills that we are finding in regards. Now, I cannot see this one behind it. This is 1/8 of 96. But I want to say, and I probably should have separated these out, that this is likely the phone bill where he is using a completely different name. Let's see what we see. December of 95, the phone bills are in the name of J.W. Barnett. So now we see Jack W. Terrence using Barnett, and Barnett is the maiden name of Ina Flova Barnett, which is Jack's mother, her maiden name previous to marrying his father, Terrence. Back in Dale, Texas, and shows a contract with a number in Boulder, Colorado in December of 1995, and on New Year's at 10:28. This may be checking the atomic time with Colorado. Here's the picture of the real J.W. Barnett when Jack was approximately 25 to 26 years old, with his daughter Lana and mother Flova with Mary D. Ray, celebrating her son's 66th birthday, which means that at the time of this bill, J.W. Barnett would have been approximately 110 years old by 1996. So, interestingly enough, he actually looks a whole heck of a lot like Jack. We can see him. Let me see if I can get my cursor over here. This would have been Barnett here. And of course, he certainly would not have been alive at 110 years old in 1996. So Jack, that is Jack. Sorry, guys. Jack actually is using J.W. Barnett for this particular phone bill. Don't know why. January 1996, there's a Texas murder of Amber Hagerman, victim of an abduction and murder. On 13th of January 1996, she was riding her bike near her grandparents' home in Arlington, Texas, and was kidnapped soon thereafter. 4 days later, a man walking his dog found her body in a creek bed. An autopsy revealed that her throat had been cut. Although a $75,000 reward was offered for information leading to Hagerman's killer, the perpetrator was never found. Her murder would later inspire the creation of the Amber Alert system. And the Amber Alert system is something we are all very familiar with these days. They'll break into your cell phone. You'll have whirlybirds or helicopters flying around screaming out the information. So this is where the Amber Alert began. January 13th of 1996 or 1997. Let's see. Year of crime is conflicted with report evidence on the internet. So I needed to find the real date. I wasn't sure, evidently, whether or not this occurred on 1996 or 1997. So I've questioned myself on it. She's 9 years old, riding a bike. Again, that takes us back to the Phoenix stuff, the 1944, California. Man pulled her off her bike and threw her in his dark pickup. So there was some sight or witness that indicated that she was taken off of her bike and thrown into a dark pickup. On January 17th of 1996, her body was found in a drainage ditch. So it looks like 1996. So it's been reported at least 2 out of the 3 times that I've found information on this particular case. Body was found in a drainage ditch. She had been sexually assaulted, throat cut multiple times with a knife, and like Laura Smithers' case, nude except for socks. February 1st of 1996, 14-year-old Lynette Bibbs and 15-year-old Tamara Fisher at a teen club in Houston, Texas. Bibbs was found 2 days later on a rural road in Cleveland, Texas, partially clothed, shot twice in the back of the head and in the thigh once. Fisher was found on the same rural road, Cleveland, Texas, fully clothed and a gunshot wound to the head. So just more things going on in Texas here at this point. February 3rd of 1996, Jack is still paying Flova's bills and his own bills in Dale, Texas. So we still have him in Texas. Made it a little, and that is all we have for today. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
No!